I'm wondering if it's easier for you to get angry than it is for you to cry. That's normal. Humans have emotions, and it's difficult for all of us. We don't have a lot of information about those emotions. And when your emotions are high, your intelligence is low. So, emotional intelligence is the goal, right? So, knowing more about your emotions when you're not having them, knowing more about what to do with them when you do have them, that's just some of the things we'll talk about. But if you have that tendency to feel more comfortable expressing anger than you do expressing sadness, it makes sense because your sadness is very vulnerable and anger covers up sadness. So underneath anger, we usually have a lot of sadness. And when that sadness stays trapped in the body, the need to express your anger is that need for the emotions to get out of the body. And the problem with the fact that you are using anger as a way to get this energy out of the body that needs to get out of the body is that there are consequences to anger. There are a lot of choices in life that we'd like to make that feel good, but we don't because of the consequences. Like, it feels good to have a drink, but the next day you have a hangover. It doesn't feel good to exercise, but afterwards you feel good. So a lot of things that don't feel good actually end up being good for you. And a lot of things that do feel good end up being bad for you. So anger is one example. Like, you might hurt someone, you might hurt yourself, you might damage property. So there are consequences. You could end up in jail if you always act out on your anger. But the main consequence is that people won't feel safe around you. So you will be a threat to have a relationship with. You will be threatening to the people you're in relationship with. And so they won't be able to express themselves, feel like they can express themselves around you. And therefore you won't know what's going on with them. You won't be able to create healthy relationships if the only way you know how to express yourself is through anger. So when we have emotions, we react in one of four ways. We express it, we react to it, we act out in some way, or we project it. So a lot of times when you're angry, the reason anger feels good is it's getting that energy out. It's a movement of energy. It's an expression of life force. That's why it's good to put your anger into a physical form, like exercise or martial arts. And I have a link in my bio of a meditation and yoga bundle where there are breathing exercises, there are meditation exercises, there are all sorts of resources for you that are awesome. But I'll tell you more about that later. Anger can feel good because it's proactive, because it's finally doing something. You couldn't do anything with your sadness because you didn't actually feel safe to express your sadness. Like, you weren't taught that was safe. You're not sure that you're safe with the people you're around. If you're a masculine being, you have been taught that it's not safe to be vulnerable. And, sometimes we don't feel supported. We've never felt supported. We haven't ever had healthy enough relationships where someone could really be there with our sadness. So anger usually covers up sadness. So when we can't go there for whatever reason, we're not comfortable going into our sadness, we feel weak, we feel vulnerable, we don't feel safe, we haven't been taught it's okay, then we use anger, to get that sad energy out. And it doesn't fully get the sad energy out. And like I said, there's consequences. When you use anger, there's consequences. So, and, the main one being that you won't create safe relationships. Now this person's that you've gotten angry with is going to be walking on eggshells around you. They're not going to feel safe to challenge you. They're not going to feel safe to have, and so in moments that you're not emotional, that's a huge loss. And it cuts you off more from relationship, which is a really safe place for healing. Intimacy can be really healing for these deep wounds that we all have. So we all have these energies in our body that need to get out. When we use anger and avoid sadness because the sadness is deep, it's wounded, it's vulnerable, it's uncomfortable, it's easier to do anger. Anger feels powerful. Anger creates space for you. Anger is a movement of life force. We usually feel better, but everybody else feels worse. And we cut ourselves off from relationships, which is where true healing occurs, where we learn that it is safe to have emotions, where we learn that we are safe to be who we are and express our truth. So some skills that I can tell you today for dealing with emotions are, noticing how you feel. So we often will want to say, you're being like this, you're being like that, you just did this, like all accusations, that's all projection. So how are you feeling? Even if the other person is coming at you, even if you're not emotional, having an emotional experience, it is so much more helpful to tell someone how you're feeling than accuse them of how they're acting. They're usually not that responsive to that. And then there is a place where all of this stuff that's in your body that needs to come out exists as energy. So that's the best way. There are other ways, but as a practice, like as you're falling asleep at night, you might feel frustration come up or anger come up or fear come up or hatred come up. Or guilt come up, or shame come up. These are things that are really good to start getting a sense of how to talk about, how to name, at least for yourself. So if you feel guilt, it's like, what is the energy of that guilt? Without even calling it, taking it to an energetic level where it doesn't have a label, where there is no thought or form. How does it feel? And feel it. And feeling your way through these energies that are in your body is one of the best practices for releasing them. And then in the moment of a conflicting situation, if you can remember on more of a thought cognitive level to express how you feel. Expression, out of the 4 things I named, expression is the healthiest one. So can you express how you feel? And therefore, instead of like, you're always being so aggressive with me, it's like, I feel vulnerable or I feel frazzled, And then we got to be careful when we talk about feelings that we're actually talking about feelings. Because sometimes we can say like, instead of saying I feel misunderstood, we'll say I feel falsely accused. So that's still like an accusation and about them, you can be a little bit more careful than that. So at the link in my bio, the meditation and yoga bundle will give you ways to move your life force energy through breath, through yoga exercises. It will give you meditations to use. And there's also a playlist that gives you high consciousness music, which is so good for your brain and your body chemicals compared to the kind of music and the rhythmic programming that happens in music. So check that out. It's at linktree/the divine goddess, which is lanktr.ee/the divine goddess, which is THEDIVINEGODDESSE. Okay.